We all think we know the story of Pygmalion, right? Eliza Doolittle, the Cockney flower girl, gets scooped up by Professor Henry Higgins, and poof, she's transformed into a proper lady. It's the ultimate makeover story. But what if that whole transformation isn't actually the real point? What if there's a much more radical story going on just beneath the surface? Because that's really the question here. Is this play just about changing how you dress and how you talk? Or did the playwright, the brilliant George Bernard Shaw, have a much, much bigger idea in mind about what it means to actually grow up? To figure that out, we're going to use a special kind of literary tool. See, it turns out that a ton of classic coming-of-age stories follow this sort of hidden blueprint, a really specific pattern of growth. And we're going to use that blueprint to unlock what Shaw is really up to in Pygmalion. Now, that tool is called the Bildungsroman. I know it's a German word, sounds super complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. It just means a story of formation. It's a genre that tracks a character's journey from being, young and naive to a mature, self-aware adult. Think of books like Jane Eyre or Great Expectations. And this story of formation almost always plays out in 4 distinct steps. First, the character starts out naive, kind of clueless. Second, they go through some tough education, some real trials. Third, all that learning leads to a massive identity crisis. And finally, they push through that crisis to achieve real maturity. So let's see how this fits with our girl, Eliza. So the big question is, can we actually map Eliza Doolittle's journey onto this 4-step blueprint? Well, when you lay it all out, the fit is almost perfect. It's a little spooky, actually. I mean, just look at how neatly this all lines up. Phase 1, Eliza's the raw material, right? She's childlike, totally defined by where she's from. Phase 2, her absolutely grueling, even dehumanizing education with Higgins. Phase 3, this brings on the crisis. She's a huge social success, but she suddenly realizes she's just a product that Higgins made. She doesn't belong anywhere. And all of that leads to Phase 4, true maturity, where she finally gets her independence by telling Higgins straight up, I can do without you. It seems to fit perfectly, doesn't it? So that's that. Pygmalion is a classic coming-of-age story for a young woman, a perfect Bildungsroman on the stage. Case closed, right? Well, not quite. Not so fast. Because this, right here, is where George Bernard Shaw shows us he's a genius. He doesn't just use the blueprint. He uses it to set us up, to make us think we know where this is going, and then he just brilliantly smashes it. He follows the rules only so he can break them. He learns the form inside and out. Not so he can copy it, but so he can challenge the very idea of it. And he pulls this off in 2 specific, incredibly powerful ways. Okay, so in your typical coming-of-age story, the hero's growth is all about becoming a better, more moral person, and their mentor is this wise figure they look up to. Shaw takes both of those ideas and just flips them completely on their head. Let's break down exactly how he does it. First, Shaw makes us ask what improvement even is. In a normal story, the hero becomes a better person. But was Eliza a bad person to start with? No way. As a flower girl, she was honest, she was hardworking. Her growth is all social and intellectual. In fact, you could argue she's actually less happy by the end. Shaw is asking this really sharp question. Is becoming a lady in this stuffy, rigid society really a step up? And the second twist is even more radical. The student completely, totally outgrows the master. Yeah, Eliza learns phonetics from Higgins, but she develops something he is absolutely incapable of, emotional intelligence. By the end of the play, she's the calm, self-aware adult. And her brilliant professor? He's still a tyrannical, petulant child, literally throwing tantrums when he can't get his way. So, what does all this add up to? By breaking all the rules of the genre, Shaw creates a brand new kind of heroine and completely redefines what it even means to come of age. For Eliza, true maturity isn't found in some fairy tale ending where she marries the professor or gets a fancy spot in the upper class. No, her real victory is internal. It's about finding her own independence and her own sense of self-worth. One of the sources we looked at puts it perfectly. The story isn't really about phonetics. It's about empowerment. Eliza's transformation is about gaining a voice, not just so she can sound like a lady, but so she can express her own thoughts, her own feelings, her own humanity. And in doing that, she becomes a truly modern heroine. She isn't defined by her relationship with a man or by her social status. She's defined by her own intellectual and emotional independence, which, for the time, was an absolutely revolutionary idea. And that's the question Pygmalion leaves us with, a question that's just as relevant today as it was 100 years ago. Beyond the accents we might put on, or the different social roles we all play, what does it truly mean to find your own voice?